Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Becky Brown.
Welcome, everybody. I'm so grateful that you tuned in today, and I am looking forward to hearing from our callers. We got some calls waiting on hold right now, and we're excited about that. We've got with us today Dr. Jacqui Mack-Harris, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a professor, as well as a number of other things that is just evidence of her wisdom. Mm-hmm. And Chris Williams, who's also a licensed marriage and family therapist, also does leadership work, and they are wise people. And so today, I want to hear from you, Chris. What is on your mind?
Okay, so on a previous show, this is about a week and a half ago, I talked about, I use this term, benevolent witness. And that we all need to have a need to be seen. We need to be heard, understood. That's why empathy, I say empathy is the oxygen of relationship and why it's so critically important, but also the benevolent part of it too. That I get such great comfort that I am surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses here and I believe in the heavenly realms. There's this other thing alongside of that I think is really, really important and essential and missing in our culture and in our experiences. I've been, for reasons that, for certain reasons, really contemplating this word host. And really looking into when the scripture refers to God as the Lord of hosts, what that actually means. And so I want to take back to this idea of benevolent witnesses and hosting. A good host cares in detail about the people that they are hosting. And so what that looks like is that they understand how a person feels valued, and they make sure that they execute on what makes them feel valued. Now, the story that I have around this of the Lord of Hosts is that I took my son on a 12-year-old kind of rite of passage adventure last summer in Alaska, and that was his choice. And as we're there, the grandeur of Alaska, kind of we all know it. If we've been there, it's just a different experience. The water is bigger. The vegetation is bigger, especially there in the summertime. The mountains are bigger. The snow is bigger. Everything is the life is bigger there. And what I really felt the sense of God in that experience with my son is that he is saying, I am hosting this experience for you guys. I made this creation to host you. I am the Lord of hosts. And so as we're doing that, something that we need in our lives is we need to be hosted by others. But also, I believe it's a reciprocal energy that we participate in. That maybe there's areas in our life that we need to work on where we can host other people really well. And let's not overthink that as this fantastic chef-prepared meal, but hosting someone could look like chips and dips and iced tea in the backyard around a fire. And so, but it's about a presence of valuing other people.
I love that. I love that concept. And I think so many of us think Martha Stewart when they think hosting, right? Yeah. And I've got to have it all perfect. And yet just holding space with somebody is so powerful. And I think that's what you're talking about with benevolent witness and with hosting. And aren't we grateful for the Lord of hosts, the one who is present? He's everlasting. I'm so grateful. Well, thank you, Chris. I love that insight. We are going to go to the calls after this break, and we'll continue to take calls always. We want to help you. We are being present with you, just like you said, Chris. We are hosting a space for you to enter in. We hope you'll join us. We'll be right back after this.
My husband was involved with pornography addiction.
He was unfaithful. He stepped out on the marriage and ended up having a child.
The Restore Intensive is designed for a woman dealing with a man's sexual addiction issues.
There were strip clubs.
My husband is a recovering sex addict.
If you've been affected by betrayal, an emotional or a physical affair, or pornography, the Restore Intensive will equip you with support and tools to help you through.
Restore has empowered me and has given me the tools to work through my anger, work through my pain, work through my confusion, and help me realize that I am worthy.
Being here and being surrounded by people who get it has given me my power back.
The Restore Intensive is coming to Dallas, Texas, July 12th through the 14th. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50.
Thank you, Restore. You have changed my life forever.
1-800-NEW-LIFE and the discount code NLL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. I'm convinced that life without risk isn't much of a life. There's a certain comfort in predictability, but it's the kind of comfort that prevents movement and growth, a comfort you find in hibernation. An athlete must regularly stretch his muscles to the point where they burn, or else they'll become inflexible and easily fatigued. The same is true with your soul. It must be regularly stretched, and failure to do so provides a degree of superficial comfort in the short term. But ultimately, it leaves you emotionally and spiritually unfit. Connecting, finding love, pursuing dreams, and succeeding all require risk. Yes, you'll be stretched to the point of discomfort. And yes, you'll be open to injury and disappointment. But these are far better alternatives than the loneliness, boredom, and quiet desperation that accompany a life without risk. Visit me at newlife.com for more help on taking risk. I'm Steve Arterburn, and thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
I always love his insight. You know, it's what we were talking about just recently about doing our own work, and it requires risk. We have to reach out. We have to do something that feels a little bit strange because we do like our comfort. We want to stay in our comfort zone, and life happens outside of that comfort zone.
And if I can chime in just real quickly about that.
Of course.
You know, Jesus tells us that the righteous will live by faith, right? And so one of my definitions of faith, it's not all-encompassing, but it's a good marker. I think faith is a meaningful risk. Faith itself requires risk. Otherwise, it's not faith. And when we decide what is, according to God's will in our life, what is most meaningful and risk in that direction, I just find over and over and over God meets us there.
I love
Amen.
that. He is faithful. Well, we are going to be going to the calls now. We're going to talk to, I think it's Manaka, but you can correct me. You're calling me from Ventura, California, listens on KKLA. How do you say your name?
Menaka.
Minika. Okay, that was one of my guesses, but I'm so glad you called Minika. How can we help you today?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. It's regarding my son. He's 28 years old, going to be 29 this year. How I can connect to him in a way that he would not pull back when I go to advice. So that's my question. He's a software engineer, senior software engineer for a big company, but he's self-learned. He got promoted. He dropped out of college. He didn't want to go to school. So all his efforts, it's self-learned. So the whole division got the layoff notice, but he still got selected, but to move to a different state. So he's going to take that, but he's telling he's not going to move. I'm just going to give the address of another coworker so that in the payroll it will have it. They will think I moved. I'm thinking it is pretty risky to do that. He should take the, package and use some of it and move because he has a current lease. So if I go to advise him too much, he wouldn't tell me the details. So it's like a very intricate balance.
Yeah.
How do I, and I'm also trying hard to connect to him. I was a single mother. I raised him. For 13 years, I was single-handedly raised him and his sister. I worked, and so, there were times that he had to be home alone because I worked in LA, so it was 2.5-hour drive.
Wow.
So I rented a place Monday to Thursday or Tuesday to Thursday. I was out, so he stayed in the house alone because his sister was out in East Coast in grad school. Mm-hmm. So he still doesn't talk too much when he has an issue.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like he maybe learned how to navigate his issues on his own. He might be a tad bit emotionally avoidant. Maybe he's just really had to develop that independence. I hear you saying you want a close relationship with him. You want good connection. But when you try to give him advice, he pulls away, and then he just won't be honest with you. And so there is some connection and relationship there, enough for you to know that. Mm-hmm. And so I think you move accordingly. He's 28. He's going to make a choice and, take it or leave it. In our house, life's about choices. Choices have consequences and repercussions. Grown folks make their own choices. And so my relationship would be my relationship with him. And I might say, hey, if it were me, I'd do this. But then that would be it, because the choice is his. And it sounds like he's already figured out how he wants to handle it. You have some concerns for him as his mom, but I would share them in that way. I wouldn't advise. I would share my concern. And I wouldn't present it as, here's what I think you should do. I would present it as, I'm really concerned that if you do that thing, that something bad could happen. But I love you, and I'm praying for the best outcome for you. And let the relationship be an adult relationship, because he's not the little boy. That time of where you could maybe have had influence was probably happening when you were, having to work in another city, and he was having to figure out how to make decisions on his own. And so now he may make decisions from that teenage place of looking for maybe the easier path for him, or the most satisfying path for him, so he can have what he wants the way that he wants it, because that's what he got to do throughout his adolescence.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yes, but what if he loses the job?
That's a horrible, painful. That's a hard, painful consequence.
Medica, but your fear is the bus driver here, right? Your fear that he will lose his job. He got his job without a college degree. Mm-hmm. He's figured out a lot of things in life, right? You've done single parenting is brutally difficult, and we end up, and I say we because I actually haven't had that, but I was raised by a single parent, and it's so much responsibility on your shoulders. And one of the subtle things that we kind of take on as parents, and I think this is the double portion for the single parent, is that we're sort of the determiner of the well-being of our child's future. Mm-hmm. But the truth is we're not. They are, as Jacqui was saying. Adults make adult decisions and deal with adult consequences, And so I'm concerned for your son, too, that this level of deceit will cause him to lose a job and lose out on things, and he'll learn.
Yeah.
But
yes,
yeah, but
where is he how is he going to get himself financed? Because even though
Menica, that's what they're talking. Menica.
So
go ahead, Chris.
You have to look at what he's already done, right? So now the fear is that he's going to somehow be financially destitute.
Did you think that he was going to make it when he dropped out of school?
No. I think one thing is he was upset with me. I was never there. Mm-hmm. His dad was never in the picture. He is a PhD. He's a physicist. I have an MBA. So I pushed him to college. Mm-hmm. He dropped out.
And he dropped out, and he is so successful that even though the company that he works for without a degree is laying off a bunch of people, he still has a job. he's going to be okay. Your fear is...
This way it will be out. I'm like, why are you doing this? He said, I already signed my lease. I'm like, they will pay for you to break the lease.
So, Menaka, I want you to feel what's happening inside of you right now. Feel what's happening inside of your chest right now. How anxious that is. You're living a very, very fear-driven story, right? So, but we're missing something that is hiding in plain sight. And fear will turn the story negative really quickly and blind us to something really important. It'll blind us to what is good and right and what is resourceful. Your son is phenomenally resourceful. It is actually really remarkable what people can overcome. You are a high achiever. His dad is a high achiever. He has high achiever inside of him. And that's going to happen. But also, I really believe that your son is also saying, you guys pushed me and weren't there for me, so I'm going to do it my way.
I've been doing it my way, and that's how I've got here.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to listen to you. But if you come back and say to him, hey, there's some concerns I have here, about honesty and whatever. I said, but I am so proud of you for figuring out how to make life for you work, how to make a career work for you right now. I trust that you'll figure it out. I want to, and I don't always know how to be there for you. That is true. But I just want you to know I'm really, really proud of you.
And, well, you may Menaka, if I can add one more thing from that perspective that you asked about, you don't feel close to him. He identifies that you weren't there for him. And what I would have you do is push into connecting with him, not being so focused on what his career will be or how he's going to, because he'll figure it out. You were also resourceful. You did what you had to do. You made some really difficult choices, but you did say in your question, how do I connect with him?
Yes.
That when you have a connection with him.
He doesn't share.
He doesn't share because when he does share, you're going to tell him what you want him to know and hear, and not necessarily listen to what he is sharing.
So, Jacqui, what would be an example for Menaka to connect with him? What would be an example? What does that mean?
He knows I had to be out of the house.
Oh, he does know. And even knowing doesn't change even knowing though doesn't change the experience. And so whether he knows or not, he still needs to know that you know how hard it was for him. The fact that, so he has a reason for why he's choosing to not break the lease and to be deceitful, right? He could say the same thing. Well, I need to do this because I need the money and I need this apartment here, or I don't want to move. We all have the reasons. So yes, he understands. He's an intelligent man. He understands why you did what you did. But whether he understands it or not doesn't change the fact that as a child, he didn't have you there. That had an impact. That's not to put you down. That's just a fact. And so he learned to make choices and decisions on his own. He learned to do it his way. He figured out how to get over in some ways because he's pretty smart. He's kind of a genius. He can do things without a degree. He's taught himself how to do things that others have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn how to do. So you have done a good job raising him. But maybe the part that you maybe are struggling with is getting to know him and being connected to him as who he is, more so than how you see him or what you want him to be or what you want that relationship to be. So I would just, when he talks about you not being there, I would just validate that. I wouldn't say, well, I had to go make money. I had to take care of the family. I was a single. I would just say, yeah, that had to be really hard for you. Can you tell me what it was like for you to wake up in the morning and get yourself to school and to get yourself home after school and to not have a parent there? Just hear him. The same with this move. Just hear him. He doesn't need your advice. He's quite capable. Your fear is your fear. Don't put it on him.
I love that. Menaka, we're going to...
I love that advice because normally I just pour out my fear and concern, and I was asking, would you still go back to school? Because I paid single-handedly, even for my daughter's college.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And
Well,
That's not a value for him.
That's right. And Minica,
Yes.
here's the thing. You said it just now, and Chris was talking about it. Your fear was driving the bus.
Yeah.
And relationships and connection do not happen in a healthy way with fear. Yeah, you can have connection with fear, but it never is healthy. We're going to send you a copy of Dr. Jim Burns' book, Doing Life with Your Adult Children.
That's
and
good.
I am going to pray, Minica, that you have a great connection with your son and can see his value and see what he's doing in the world. It's not going to be the way that you did it, but it's going to be his way. And we want to see him thrive, and we want to see you connect with him. We're so grateful that you called. You know, it is always something. And we have to be paying attention to our feelings, like you said, but they are not good direction givers. They can take us on a trip.
When you give to the New Life Scholarship Fund, you're giving someone hope for a brighter future.
I was kind of in the closet and hit with my struggle. Your donation really made the difference, especially in my situation, because I would up getting laid off from my job.
At the New Life Intensives, hurting people are able to begin a new path towards healing and freedom that has an effect on all of those around them.
I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. You know, I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. Their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To help hurting people to connect to the help they need, make your gift to the Scholarship Fund at newlife.com or by calling 1-800-NEW-LIFE and specifying scholarships.
Someone called and sponsored me to come this weekend. Whoever that is, just know that you saved a life. Literally, you saved my life.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We are so grateful that you joined us. We are going to go back to the calls, and we are going to talk with Jean, who's calling us from Annapolis, Maryland, listens on WAVA. Hello, Jean. Glad you called. How can we help you today?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. We have a serious problem here. My daughter who's living with us is 52. She's having memory loss because of her MS. And she's not eating, she's not taking care of herself. And plus I've been going through a major depression, anxiety for like 4 years, and my husband's taking care of everything. We had my mom living here for a while, and we had to put her in a nursing home. She lived with us for 20 years, but the last 4 or 5 years, she went downhill. So it was just like one thing after the other. We both know the Lord is Savior, but we're just getting overwhelmed with one issue after another.
Yeah, that family caregiver gig it's something else. So your mother-in-law, did you say it was, lived with you for 20 years?
My mom.
Oh, your mom?
It was my mom.
Okay, so your mom lived with you, and you cared for her until she got to the point where she needed more intensive care, so she's in skilled nursing. And your daughter has MS, and it's impacting her memory. You said she's not eating and not taking care of herself. And I wonder if that is more about the memory, the MS, than it is just about her not taking care of herself. Sometimes...
Well, what do we do? She won't listen to us. I mean, we try to talk to her. She has doctor's appointments that she won't let us take her to because she was in a bad accident. Well, she didn't get seriously hurt.
Do you have a Do you have a conservatorship, if I can get that word out of my mouth, with her?
No.
Okay.
How long has she had MS?
20 years.
Wow.
And so is it recently deteriorating? Are these some changes that are happening, or has she always struggled with problems with her memory?
We weren't around her before.
So how long has she been with you?
Probably a couple of years.
Okay. Did she come with you because the MS was getting worse?
Well, she got in a car accident, and she couldn't drive any longer, so she moved in with us. She was living in a home where we were supporting her, which was not good. We've been supporting her for like 15 years, 20 years, probably 15 years, I guess.
So she hasn't been able to work because of her MS?
She hasn't. Well, she could have worked, but she never took it on herself to work. I mean...
Well, and I'm wondering, Jean, how about your own health care? Like you mentioned that you're dealing with depression and your just lack of motivation. You feel like your husband's doing everything. What are you doing for you?
I haven't been doing that much. I mean, I try to go to counseling, but I get overwhelmed with it. I've tried like 15 different medications, and they're not working. I've done TMS and ketamine. I'm just at my end. I don't know what to do anymore.
Well, Jean, I want to go back to this word overwhelmed. How long, how much of your life has overwhelmed been an experience for you?
Probably since I was a teenager. I mean, it wasn't as bad. These last 4 years have been the worst.
For sure. Well, tell me about a teenager. What became overwhelming as a teenager?
My mom was a single mom, and I was the oldest of 5 kids. When I was younger, I had to kind of be the caregiver to them.
Yeah.
And then when I was a teenager, I think I had some depression then.
For sure.
And I didn't really function. I mean, I graduated. I worked full-time for like 30 years.
So let me ask this question. Jean, how tired are you?
I can't sleep.
So can I just surmise that you're really, really tired?
Yes.
Okay. Let's just sit there for a while.
That's the reason. That's the reason why I asked about your own care, Jean, because you are tired. It takes effort and energy to focus, and your daughter seems to be the flag that is waving in front of you. This is where the attention needs to go, but you have no resources on your own to do that.
And that's why I want to look at this, because so much of the time that depression and anxiety is really us just hitting our tipping point of what we can handle. And oftentimes we even say to ourselves, well, you should be able to handle more. But every human being walking this planet has a limited capacity, has limitations. And so life for Eugene has been overwhelming. And we want to talk more about maybe what can we do to make it less whelming for you.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and we have a limitation right now because the music is playing. But Jean, you hold on for one more minute, and we'll be back with maybe some next steps that won't overwhelm you. And, you know, I tell you, when you're drowning, you need that lifesaver. And we hear that. We'll be right back after this.
of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Club New Life changes lives.
I think I go way back to listening to New Life, learning so much from it, and then becoming a Club New Life member.
Club New Life is a monthly giving family that helps New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people.
You know, I'm so thankful because you know why I keep giving? Because I keep learning, and I'm so thankful for all the lives that you touch every day and the people's lives. So when I get to still hear the radio show, it's just so encouraging to my heart.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
And you know one reason I give? Because I feel like sometimes I'm hiding behind a counselor's couch and listening to all this great information and not paying, so my guilt of this great advice is alleviated by being a Club New Life member.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. And together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We have been talking with Jean, who has multiple things going on in her life and is just overwhelmed. And we were talking at the break, Jean, about next steps. Chris, how about you start?
I think a couple of things here. As we mentioned, that I think the biggest issue, it may not feel like the biggest issue, but it is the biggest issue in your life right now, Jean, is your depression and anxiety. And I know that can feel like something that comes with this no solution. I've tried everything, but it's really something that I think needs to take a deeper dive. I would love for you to get into some deeper therapy around that so that you can begin to, what I like to refer to as offload your life. Offload what's happening inside of you. Offload what you're carrying, because you're carrying a lot. And let's be honest, you're going to be facing a lot, because the thing that, the elephant in the room that we haven't talked about is you're facing grief square in the eye. It's coming after you.
With both mom and daughter.
With mom and daughter. And so you're going to need care. You're going to need capacity. You're going to need a lot of things in your life to work through that. Otherwise, those become huge, more overwhelming things. And this is where underwhelming needs to be a positive word. Mm-hmm. Your life needs to be underwhelmed, not overwhelmed. So that offload, I think a really good therapist can help you walk through that and make your life more simple and manageable.
And I noticed you said your husband is doing a lot of things, and so I imagine there might be some issues there maritally if he's carrying the brunt of the load right now and you're wrestling with depression and anxiety. Another thing I want to just kind of highlight for you is one of your concerns is your daughter is not taking care of herself. She's not letting you take her to appointments. She's not taking medication. She's not doing the things that need to happen for her to be healthy. And Becky asked what you were doing to take care of yourself, and it sounds like your daughter got it honestly. Apples and trees is what we would say in our house. So she may have learned some things from you. And so if you get into your work and you become consistent and you push, it's hard. When you're depressed, your brain is telling you can't. You're exhausted. You don't have the motivation. You can't remember things. So it's really hard to make it happen. But in the way that you would like for your daughter to respond to her care, you should model that for her.
Yeah, I tell you, Jean, it is hard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a copy of Changes That Heal. If you'll hold on, we'll get you connected with a counselor and maybe even join a life recovery group to get that process going. Here's the highlight here, though. When we're depressed, we can't make up our own mind. We have to say, I'm going to commit to this process. And just like what Jacqui was just saying, you're processing your own grief, your own stuff will be a model for those around you. And that's what we want for you. And we're so grateful that you called, and we want you to get good help, Jean. You're worth it. Well, we talk about things like this at our Emotional Freedom Intensive. We do it online. Obviously, Chris, you and Jacqui are our main speakers, along with Steve. And, when you think about the stuff that we unpack at Emotional Freedom, these are kind of the things that we talk about, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Those stuck places.
Well, and when talking about depression, what I like to bring it back to over and over again is that depression physiologically is a lack of usable energy in the brain and the body. And so a question that I think we need to ask that we typically don't is, what has stolen my energy? What has drained my energy? I'll tell you one thing that drains energy very quickly, fast and furious: anxiety. And so there becomes this dance that Jean alluded to between anxiety and depression. I carry a lot of anxiety, it burns out energy. And maybe I tend to be overly responsible and overwhelmed. And then my body runs out of that energy because it's always a limited resource, and it crashes. When we're talking about self-care, people, we're not talking about some feel-goodism. We're talking about the way that God has designed us to operate, in the way that we can live and lean into renewable and reusable energy sources. And going back to that self-care piece, it's like, oh, well, it's selfish, or it's only thing. I'm like, no. If I neglect myself for a while, it's going to show up in very negative ways to the people around me.
Yeah.
If I care for myself well, it allows me to care for the things and the people around me well.
Yeah, we talk about people being selfish when they're doing something to focus on themselves. There's so many times I sit with a client and they're like, well, I can't do that. It's selfish. You mean to go to bed early? I don't, wait, what? Why is that so? Put your mask on first. Have you ever been on a plane? If the person sitting next to you needs assistance, and for some reason this plane loses air cabin pressure, oxygen masks are going to drop down from the ceiling. If you put theirs on first, you might not be awake to put yours on. So you need to put yours on first, so that then you have the oxygen or the energy to then do that for someone else. And so it's not selfish.
Do you know, Jacqui, whenever I hear that, because we fly quite a bit, and one of the things that I always think of is that next phrase that the flight attendants say: it may not look like the oxygen is working, but it is. And I think that's the key to when we do these kind of steps.
So good.
Is yes, you have to go to the counselor, but it may not feel like it the first time. Matter of fact, we say this all the time. The first visit to a counselor's office, 95% you're not going to feel better when you leave, just because you have disrupted everything that you've been keeping inside of you. Or sometimes you feel better because you just threw up and you think, I don't have to go back. Why do I have to go back? I feel that relief. And so I want to encourage, if you are struggling, so we talk about Emotional Freedom, it's a one-day online intensive, but it's more than one day of work. That is the beginning. We have our counseling groups that we have breakout groups where you can facilitate that process of what you're hearing Chris, Jacqui, and Steve talk about. You can tell your story. You can create that plan so that when you get back to the regular rhythms of life, you're like, you know what? I'm going to do the self-care because I care for those around me. I care for myself. I want to be equipped and ready. I want to be in condition to deal with life, because life is always life in us.
And one of the things that I get to talk about when I talk about trauma is how the effects of trauma sometimes shows up looking like sin. And so some of the things that we are doing are trauma responses, and we are trying to deal with it without dealing with the trauma. So we look at the problem, and sometimes you work through how you got stuck, what happened to you, what's this story that you're being told or that you're telling yourself, and how do you want to change that, and just being honest with yourself about your story and choosing a new ending, choosing a new pathway can start to shake up that depression, can give you some, because sometimes we're anxious and depressed because we're lying to ourselves and to others. We're choosing to do something we absolutely really don't want to do, but it's selfish to not do it. So we're forcing ourselves and feeling like a horrible human.
This is so critically important because Jesus really attacks this head on. Because when he's accused of hanging out with sinners, notice the frame that he uses. He says, it's not the well who need a doctor, it's the sick. I have come to seek and save the lost. Yeah. And so we see this, especially in the Gospel of Luke, that Jesus' ministry, his actual gospel, comes with healing and forgiveness. Yeah. Because how much of, quote unquote, our sin patterns are born out of pain and fear that we're carrying from our past, injury, and injury continuing itself on in us and also through us. So if we're stuck in this area, if you're stuck in a particular area and you can't break this pattern, one, we want you to get help. We also want you to go to emotional freedom. But I want you to know today that when we use these big words like sanctification or spiritual formation or becoming, all we're supposed to be in Christ, living out God's will, healing is an essential part of that.
Yes.
And Jesus' life could not make that more clear.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of that, we have great connections with churches across the country, because everybody that comes to New Life typically is going to church somewhere or has had an experience with church, and we want to empower those churches to be able to move into that healing space. If you are part of a church or if you're in church leadership, you can go to our church resources page at the website newlife.com, and you'll see the tab resources up at the top, and it'll say church resources and all kinds of great insight. But I would love for you to take the day, September 28th it is, online for emotional freedom. You can go to newlife.com/events. You'll see all of the information there, or even better yet, you could call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and we've got scholarships available, and you don't even have to leave your house, which is amazing. But sometimes people need to leave their house. Maybe you need to go find a room where you can just be present all day. It's really worth taking care of yourself. You are worth it. God's got a plan for your life, and it will make all the difference to do your healing, to do your self-care. And I know Jacqui and Chris agree with me on this wholeheartedly. Amen. So do it. We'll be right back after this.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Dr. Heidi Summers on coaching.
A lot of people don't understand the difference between counseling and coaching. Coaches can help you with strategizing. Not everyone is in a crisis or recovering from a trauma. A lot of people just need help getting to where they want to be, and they don't know how to do that. And so it's helpful to have a third party come in to give objective feedback, set goals, create accountability, and help you walk out what your goals actually are.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been screened and certified with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches are intended to help you live in the present and goal set toward what it is you want for the future.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. If you haven't already joined Club New Life, you could make a difference by joining our monthly giving partnership. We have people that give every month to help support everything that we do here on New Life in all different ways. And you can join, and we would love for you to join, because one of the benefits is we have a quarterly Zoom meeting where you can get on the Zoom and chat with Steve and other co-hosts as well. We just want to connect with you because you are connecting with us through your giving and making a difference in the lives of so many people. Right now, we are going to talk with Stacy, who's calling us from Las Vegas, listens on Sirius XM. We're so glad that you called, Stacy. How can we help you?
Hi, thank you for taking my phone call. My husband and I are both believers. He has 2 grown children from his first marriage. His son works for him. He's one of his employees. He and his wife, the daughter-in-law, do not agree that he remarried after his first wife passed, and they refused to let us see the grandchildren, saying if he wants to see them, he can come alone. So he's, I guess, struggling with what kind of boundaries, since he works for him. It's very blurred between personal and professional relationships. So he's struggling to maintain a professional working relationship with him when he asks to see the grandchildren, and he's either ignored or told, no, if you want to see him, come by yourself. So I guess my question is, really for him, what should he do? What type of boundaries should he put in place? Or any advice?
Yeah, Stacy, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to ask a couple of questions, and I know that we're a little bit limited on time. How long have you and your husband been married?
A year, just over a year.
And how long has it been since his first wife passed away?
Just over 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's super helpful. Because for a long, long time, I imagine, that the kids knew mom and dad. And that in that grief and in the complication of that grief in dad and his life, they haven't known Stacy and dad, and they are having a really hard time adjusting to that.
Yeah, the grief is still pretty fresh for them. And you might be bearing the weight of that grief. You may be now the bad object. And we don't know what the relationship your husband had was, what it was like with his first wife, and what the kids knew of that relationship and what their life experience has been. But there is something there in that first marriage and the relationship with those children that dad needs to work through. There is an issue that the kids have with him. And you are now being the identified object about it, and they're testing him. If these kids matter to you, then you'll come without her. You'll make us more important than her. You'll show us that you'll choose us. And so he has a decision to make, and I don't know if the two of you have had conversations about that. I don't know what your thoughts are about him seeing his grandkids without you. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, I've encouraged him actually to spend time one-on-one with his children, saying they need dad time. And he's become so frustrated that he says I don't even want to see them, and that's what worries me, is that the wedge that's being driven in this family is just going to get wider and deeper and bigger as more time goes on. And he and I did premarital counseling. We've also sought out a Christian counselor just before we got married, and after we got married, he invited the children to a session. It didn't go well. They both walked away from Christ. So they didn't like the idea of, quote unquote, Jesus being shoved down our throat. Just very, they're very hurt, and I see it.
Yeah, Stacy, there's that big pain body, right? I mean, isn't that what you guys hear? It makes sense to me that they would storm out because they're defended in their pain. And our hearts break for you, but how can we help them move forward?
If this were my husband, I'd be telling him to go see his grandkids and go see his kids and to work on that relationship. He and I are good. And as he works on that relationship with his children and his grandchildren, that will improve the possibility of there being option for me to join. Right now, they can't tolerate that. They are still grieving the loss of their mother and grieving their father's remarriage. And I truly believe in my gut that there is something else that they are still at odds with Dad about.
Yes, and I see it. Your husband also has unresolved grief that he doesn't know what to do with, and it's turned into control rather than connection. And my guess, it's been there a long time, and that he has a hard time connecting with people who do life different than him, especially when it's his children. Ironically, his son that even works for him. But as Christians, we're not called to make people do life with us or like us.
Although we keep acting like that's the call.
We're called to love people who are actually live and do and believe different than us. And that's really, really doubly painful when it's our own children.
The love your enemy, it's not just, a person who maybe wants to do harm to you.
Yeah.
It's we don't agree.
And so what I would encourage, and I know this, we're talking to you, Stacey, but if your husband was here with me, I'd be like, man, you are carrying both loss and disappointment because you've lost your wife. And spiritually speaking, you've lost your kids. And you're angry. And your kids feel the anger. They don't feel your love. So let's work through the anger so that you can go back to loving your children and handing them into God's hands and seeing what God will do with this. So yes, see your grandchildren and dote on them, but work through your anger, husband, because it is in your way. It's not helping you, it's hurting you.
Right.
Well, and the other part of this too, Stacey, like I think Chris said, or maybe Jacqui, you have no idea what was happening in the house for all of the years preceding you. But I agree with what they're talking about. Does it sound doable to you?
It does. Yes,
Good.
Very much.
And Stacey, I would just be praying for him and them and loving on them from a distance and encouraging him. And hopefully, as he's spending time with his grandkids, he can help them get to know you by sharing some of who you are. That right now, it's just, I think, too soon to expect. Yeah, especially because of whatever was going on before. Because some families could tolerate this.
Yes.
Right, but this one can't, and there is a reason. And Dad needs to take a look at that and his role in that.
It's a multiple layered grief because it is, like you said, Jacqui, it's the loss of their mom, but then they have this new reality that they don't really like because it's connected to the loss of their mom, and all round and round it goes. We're going to send you a copy of Healing is a Choice, Stacey, and we'll be praying for your family. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Jacqui.
Thank you.
We're here for you. If you need something, anything. Well, maybe not anything, but we'll try to direct you in the way that you need to get the help that you need. We're so grateful for each and every one of you. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way. I'll see you next time.